And God took great care with this garden. He planted tall, magnificent trees, fragrant flowers of every color, plants and shrubs of every kind. And God said it was good. And he called this garden Eden. And in this garden, God planted a tree. And on this tree grew fruit. The fruit was beautiful to look at and delicious to eat. God called this tree the tree of life, and he said, "Eat of this tree and live." In the center of the garden, next to the tree of life, God planted another tree. And this tree also had fruit. This tree's fruit was pleasing to look at as well. And God called this tree the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And God said, "Do not eat from this tree or you will die." And then God placed the man and the woman together into the garden to take care of this beautiful place called Eden. And God was there with them. And God and the man and the woman, they walked together, they talked together, and spent time together. They were connected in this beautiful place called Eden. But one day, Satan, disguised as the serpent, entered God's garden. And he said to the woman, "If you eat of this fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, surely you won't die. You will become wise, just like God." And the woman was deceived, and she ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And when she did, a great tearing away happened. And then the man, he also took fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and ate. And when that happened, a great tearing away took place. And now the man and the woman were separated from God. This was a terrible day, and yet God had a plan. God would make a path that would bring his children, the man and the woman, back to himself. But this was a path that was so difficult that only God could walk this path. And that's exactly what happened. Many years later, God himself came and he walked the difficult path that he alone could walk. And when he did that, finally, the man and the woman were reconnected with him once again. And their stains were removed. I wonder what you think is the most important part of the story. I wonder if you can show me your favorite part in the story. So after a little bit of discussion and them coming and showing their favorite parts or what they thought was the most important part, you would close the story by carefully putting the materials away, taking as great of care putting them away as you did in pulling them out. And even this part is it's a review for the children, and it signals the end of the story, and it closes it with a lot of intention that still feels very special. So at this point, I would put the story away by reviewing. This is the serpent, Satan, who deceived Adam and Eve, the great enemy of God. This is the man, and this is the woman that God created. This is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, of which God said, if you eat, you will die. This is the fruit from the tree of life. God said, if you eat of this fruit, you will live. This is God. And this is the difficult path that he walked to return the man and the woman to himself again. These are the plants and the shrubs, the beautiful trees and the flowers that God planted. And this is the garden that God called Eden. And that's the end. And then at this point, you can dismiss and also keep us in the classroom, and some of the children might want to have you pull it out with them again, and they can retell the story in their own words. You can tell it to them as many times as they want. You could even narrate the story and hand them the pieces and let them put the pieces down. And always returning the pieces with great care so that they begin to understand that process of telling the story and then concluding the story, and just treating the materials with care, not only so that they'll last longer, but it gives the feel of something very, very special. And that's the end.